Welcome to the Will Reads YouTube channel. I'm trying to be more excited when I do these things, but we are doing Wheel of Time content today, so that makes me excited. I promise you guys Wheel of Time content. I'm here to deliver. So before I go any further into what we're talking about today, I want to give a little bit of spoiler warning. Today's spoilers will be heavy. We will be talking about events all the way from the beginning of the books, Eye of the World, to the very end in A Memory of Light. So if you have not read all the books, I suggest you just come back and watch this video later, because today we're going to be talking about our favorite ship captain, Bayle Domon. Yes, our favorite Illianer. And of course, Illianers have that really funny speech pattern. Similar, it sounds like almost like a pirate. Taken from, I guess, a UK accent, or maybe even a Gaelic or a Welsh type accent to it. Whether it's the doobies and the changing the verbs around in the sentence structure. Sounds very piratey. Quick correction on Bayle Domon's accent. So after doing a little more research on it, Robert Jordan did bring this up one time, saying that it actually was a Dutch accent. So I know I said a Welsh or UK or Scottish accent. In my mind, that's really how it sounds when I read it on the page, but I guess Robert Jordan did say Dutch, so I want to keep true to that deep dive. So, Dutch, I guess? Up to you. You guys decide. But yeah, we're going to do a deep dive into Bayle Domon. Domon is definitely a tertiary character throughout the books, but he reoccurs in 9 of the 15 books. So he keeps on showing up, and he plays a pretty important role in a lot of these places. Oftentimes helping whisk our characters away to safety. So we're going to start with a little description of Bayle Domon. This is taken from the Wheel of Time Companion. I know it's not 100% accurate on a lot of event type things, but it does help to at least do perspective on height, size, things like that. So let's talk about him. So he's 5'10", 5 foot 10 inches, or 177.8 centimeters if you want to use metric, 240 pounds, or 108 kilos. Yeah, and people always thought he was kind of fat because he has a big round face, but it does point out he's all muscle. So, being 5'10" with 240 pounds, it's a big guy, kind of linebacker status. Of course, if you're working on a ship, any kind of sailing ship, you're going to be working all day long, even as a captain, especially this how small his ship was, and you're going to build up a lot of strength. Just happens to have a very round face. And on that round face, he has a beard, but he shaves his upper lip. Kind of a weird facial pattern, but kind of reminds me of, I don't know, maybe Abraham Lincoln or something like that. So a lot of people confuse him for being, like a fat innkeeper kind of character, but it's been said, even the companion, that he is just all muscle. So yeah, as far as his age is, at the time of the last battle, he's about 45 years old. So he's middle age. Has never been married, and his job profession in the beginning of the books is pretty much a smuggler. Maybe the Han Solo. Yeah, it's probably a bad comparison of the Wheel of Time. So where does he show up in the stories? Let's go quickly through the events of Bayle Domon, and then I'll kind of give you kind of an idea of what I think about him. Maybe talk about where he's going to go after the books. Of course, this is all speculation, and dive maybe into the thought process behind Bayle Domon. Before I get into that, we got to talk about a ship, though. Yeah. Anytime you're talking about a sailor, it's always important to talk about their ship. He was the captain of the Spray, which is kind of cool because the Spray is actually the name of, I think it's Joseph Scollum's boat, who was one of the first people ever, or one of the youngest people ever to sail around the world nonstop. He might have actually been the first. And the name of his boat was the Spray as well. Robert Jordan was a big maritime person living in Charleston. It's a big sailing community. He actually was an avid sailor himself. So there probably was a draw there and taken from that. That's probably a direct, not a coincidence. It was probably taken from that real name, the Spray, which is a good name for a boat anyway. Now, maybe not the best name for this boat. When you think Spray, you think, big ocean waves and going through and the spray kicking up. And the Spray was more of your river cruiser. So at 80 feet long, which is 24.38 meters, was very beamy, which in sailing terms, what beamy means is very wide. The beam of your boat is the width of the boat, and that's called the beam. It's the widest part of your boat. And if it's beamy, that means it's a big fat daddy boat. So usually used for cargo ships or anything that's going to be in calmer waters. Rivers, lakes are close to shore. Oftentimes people will buy cruising boats that are very beamy because of the creature comforts. It's very stable in calm waters and adds a lot of deck room and also below room, so you can either store more stuff or have more amenities down below. This particular boat had 2 masts, probably was a ketch design. Ketch with a K, K-E-T-C-H, rather than a yawl. Just from the length of it, I would guess that. Now, the difference between the two, we're going to talk about some sailing terminology because we're deep diving, right? So a ketch has 2 similar sized masts. You have your main mast and you have your mizzen mast. Both are functional sails and mast. The mizzen mast, which is your back mast, your aft mast, is going to be a smaller sail, and it's going to be ahead of the rudder post. This is important because if it's behind the rudder post, it's considered a yawl, Y-A-W-L, yawl. And I'll talk about those as well and explain why I don't think this was a yawl, even though we don't get a really detailed description. It also could have been a schooner rig, but being that it was a riverboat and that it only had 2 masts, I just tend to lean with the ketch, and it's only 80 feet. Schooners can be 80 feet long. It's still a big boat, but I just tend to, in my head, picture it as that. So let's talk about these masts and what they do. So you have the 2 masts. Both of them are functional masts that are functional sails that help propel the boat. It'll probably have a jib or a front mast. We know this because it did have a forestay. Now, just because it had a forestay doesn't necessarily mean it had a jib, that front sail, but most boats do. That helps with your going upwind. It was definitely not what's called a cat rig. A cat rig boat has your mast at the very, very front of the boat. And the reason why we know that is because in Eye of the World, Rand climbs to the top of his mast and then jumps down the forestay and slides down. If it was a cat rig, meaning that the mast was at the very front of the boat, there would be really no bow room for him to slide down to. And that would have been pretty much a sheer drop, not a slide down. So no matter what kind of power you're using, unless you're flying, you dead. Yeah, you dead. So definitely was not a cat-rigged boat. The mast was a little further back. And being that it's further back, you probably did have a jib up front. I don't picture this having square sails, although it could have, just because it was a rivercraft. And this is my reasoning why. When you have square sails, you really can only sail in basically one direction, downwind. You put your big bellows up and you sail downwind. When you have triangle sails, that allows you to sail upwind. Why is this important? Well, if you're sailing in a river, most likely it's not the widest thing in the entire world, meaning that if the wind's blowing across the river, your only really destination is going across the river. So how are you supposed to get upriver? You're supposed to row the entire way upriver? Probably not. My guess would be it's, like I said, not a square rigger. Doesn't have the big square sails. So that brings us back to the yawl. Why is this a ketch and not a yawl? So if you remember that original picture, I'm going to put it up right here. The yawl has a mast at the very back behind the rudder post. It's a whole lot smaller of a sail. The reason why they do that is not actually to add more sail area to make the boat go faster. It's actually to stabilize the boat through waves. If this was a beamy boat used for mostly river trading, there would be no point of having a yawl because you wouldn't have that wave action, which then leads back to the ketch. So that's a little bit about the spray. It was a cargo vessel. And like I said, most of what he did was smuggling or running cargo runs. I think anyone in this profession probably during this time was probably a smuggler on the side, unless they worked for an official cargo shipping company, just to make ends meet. And Bayle Domon himself was a collector of rare antiquities. So whenever he was in different ports, he would always go search through the local shops and try to find local legends and lores and pick up really cool things, such as a flashlight. I think that's basically what it was. And a couple other things that he picked up along the way. But in the beginning of the book, he is carrying something that's very special. And we'll get to that in a second. So let's go into the timeline of what happens with Bayle Domon. So real fast, we'll do like the 30-second quick overview. So shows up in Eye of the World. Rand, Matt, Tom jump on the boat, running from Trollocs. Yeah, saves him. Go to White Ribs. See you later, Rand, Tom, Matt. Bayle disappears. All right, fast forward. Book later. We're in the great hunt. Bayle Domon is now in Illianer. He's at easing the badger. Some mysterious guy comes up to him and says, "Hey, I need you to go over here." He realizes it's a trap. They're going to kill him. So he goes the other way. Yeah, and then he gets to Falme and runs right into the Shanshan. That's not good. So he gets captured. He's hanging out and getting questioned in Tome and Head. And who shows up? The girls do. Egwene, Nynaeve, men. They all show up. They do some crazy stuff. Rand battles in the sky. And Bayle's like, screw this. I'm out of here. He runs away even though he promised to save them. Yeah, he got away. So disappears. Not in Shadow Rising at all. Or not in Dragon Reborn at all. Book 4 shows back up. Bayle Domon's actually in Tenchiko. Sees his girls again, Elaine and Nynaeve, and along with Tom again and Julian. And they go ahead and start to search for the Black Aja together. He helps out a lot in the Patriarch's Palace, where he returns and recognizes a Sanshan that he had seen before him, Aginin. They actually start to develop a relationship, which is kind of strange because Bayle Domon was definitely very, very hesitant about the Sanshan and not happy with them at all, and very, very warranted reaction. But as they start to kind of hang out more, they start to develop this kind of strange relationship, which seems strange to most people. Bayle Domon's able to convince the White Cloaks to let Elaine and Nynaeve and all them are into the Patriarch's Palace. They have a seal, and he gets some Adams. So Bayle Domon collects more things, gets another seal after he lost the first one. And just for clarification, Bayle Domon helped get the seal. It was Nynaeve who took the seal then back to the tower. Bayle Domon was then given the Adams to go to have one job. You had one job. Go throw them into the sea. One job, dude. Just one job. And then after that, they run away again, and we don't see him again till Winter's Heart. In Winter's Heart, it's him and Aginin. They barge into the kitchen at the Wandering Woman and demand a room. Domon recognizes Matt, and now we're hanging out with Matt. So we're traveling along with Matt. We're going in the wagons, having a good old time. At some point, Bayle Domon gets captured. He gets basically put as a Docleve, which is a servant of the Shanshan, and the actual rank of Soljan. And Aginin buys him back. She, at this point, I think she has changed her name because of she was kind of on the oust with the Shanshan. She changed her name to Lewin. Lewin? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Correct me if I am. And then, yeah, so then they actually run away together. They get married. Yeah. And Evodar. Sweet. Yeah. They're married. Bayle Domon's not really taking on the servant role that well, though. You know, he was a ship captain, and he's kind of rough around the edges, but he's trying his best. And that kind of takes us through the Knife of Dreams. Later, the final part, when you get to the Sanderson books, Bayle Domon's with them when Matt and Tom go to the tower Genji, and because he knows where it is, so he leads them to there. Of course, it was the marker that they use on the ship in the very, very first book. That's the big tower they sailed past. And he's like, yeah, that's a marker we use that we know we're almost to Whitebridge. So pretty cool. From there, they start getting ready for the last battle, and Bayle Domon then help Aludro with the dragons and get ready to set that up for the final battle. They get there. They go to try to pledge allegiance to Egwene. Egwene sends them away to the tower. They finally are able to pledge their allegiance to Egwene, and then he meets with Gawain and says, "Hey, you're crazy. All the stuff you're trying to do," and then they run off to the sunset. The end. That's all Bayle Domon. I know I skipped over a whole bunch, but I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time recapping stuff you've already read, because if they're this far, you've already read the books. So let's talk about his motivations and kind of the sad stories and the best parts of it. So in the beginning of the books, Bayle Domon's actually running down this river when he meets Matt, Rand, and Tom. And he's running because he's just acquired one of the seals. He doesn't know what it is, but one of the seals to the Dark One's prison. And he believes he's being chased, which when Rand, Tom, and Matt jump on board, of course, he's surprised that the Trollocs are after them because he thinks the Trollocs are after him for having this. Of course, he loses that to the Shanshan in the next book, but this is kind of dealing back with that smuggler aspect of Bayle Domon and how he's at least motivated by trying to keep his prized possessions through a lot of this book. Like I said in the beginning, he was a smuggler, rough around the edges. So with that being said, his motivation is not necessarily by greed, but he definitely follows a code, but he definitely is a money type person. He's also used to being in charge. That's his personality. When he gets taken slave or servant, it's a very tough role for him to transition into, and that's very evident throughout these books. But he kind of always plays this knight in shiny armor. That's why I compared him to Han Solo in the beginning, that rough smuggler, maybe a more round version of a Han Solo that comes in and saves people. Because that's really what Han did throughout Star Wars. I know it's kind of a weird comparison, but yeah, Bayle Domon is the Wheel of Time Han Solo. And so yeah, I really, really think he plays that role well, and he kind of is always there to help out and move people into safety, whether it's his girl, as Shan Chen girl, or the other girls, Nynaeve and Elaine and Egwene, or even Rand and Matt in the beginning. At his heart, big heart guy, he really does care about his aged grandmother. Yeah, it do be his aged grandmother. So, where do I think he goes after the stories? Well, at this point, he's pretty much with the Shan Chen. If the Shan Chen go back, he might go back with them, or he might just set up and stay over on this side after the battle on the Dragon's Peace. It's really hard to speculate. Do I think he goes back into the water? Probably not. He's pretty much retired at this point. He's 45 years old. He's lived a long, hard life on the water. Now it's time to kick back his feet, relax, and enjoy retirement. That's all I got really on Bayle Domon. Hopefully you guys like this. I know it's kind of hard to get into these tertiary characters because there's not a whole lot of information. As far as personality goes, a hardened man that's stubborn, but at the same time has a big heart. That's kind of the takeaway. Love the character. Always gets a smile when Bayle Domon shows up. So, tell me what characters you want me to do dives on next. Like I said, I will try to find as much information as I can. I do have the companion. I have access to the internet. Whoa. Yeah, the internet. And I can look up anything I need to do some research and figure out any character. Obviously, if you tell me a character that showed up one time and is mentioned for literally half a sentence, it might be a very short video if I do a deep dive on that. But come on, think of some characters you want to see. I know everyone does the main characters, but let's talk about some tertiary characters that show up throughout these books. It's really cool just how much you think someone is not going to play a major role. Like when you first read Bayle Domon, who thought he's going to come back? And then he shows back up the very next book, and then again, 9 books. So I mean, that's over half the series. He's in the books. So, like I said, not a main character, but definitely plays some major roles. I hope you enjoyed the video. So until next time, peace.